Hey, welcome to Cheating Story Lab. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where in the world are you watching from. I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I thought I understood what it meant to have your heart ripped out by someone you trusted. But nothing, absolutely nothing prepared me for what happened when my 16-year-old son looked me dead in the eyes and said those 5 words that changed everything. It was a Tuesday night in March. I remember because Lorelei had just gotten back from her book club and Kieran was supposed to be doing homework. Instead, I found him in his room playing video games, his geometry textbook unopened on his desk. We'd been having issues lately, typical teenage stuff, or so I thought. Grades slipping, attitude problems, staying out past curfew. Turn it off, I said, standing in his doorway. You've got a test tomorrow. He didn't even look at me. Just kept mashing buttons on his controller like I wasn't even there. That's when I walked over and unplugged his console. What the hell, David? He shot up from his bed, and I could see this rage in his eyes that I'd never seen before. Not from my son, not from the boy I'd raised since he was 2 years old. Language, I said calmly. And it's Dad to you. That's when he said it. Those words that still echo in my head every single night. You're not my real father. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. This kid, this boy I'd taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, cheered for at every soccer game, driven to practice at 6 in the morning for years. He was looking at me like I was a stranger. What did you just say to me? You heard me. His voice was cold, calculating. My real dad wouldn't treat me like this. My real dad would understand me. I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Lorelei appeared in the doorway behind me, and I could hear her sharp intake of breath. Kieran. Alexander Morrison, she said, using his full name like she always did when he was in serious trouble. Apologize to your father right now, but he didn't. He just stared at me with this smug expression and said, he's not my father, we both know that. That night after Kieran had been sent to his room and Lorelei and I were lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said, the way he'd said it, like he knew something I didn't. Kids say things when they're angry, Lorelei whispered in the dark. He didn't mean it, but something in her voice. Something wasn't right. There was this tremor, this hesitation that I'd never heard before in 17 years of marriage. Lorelei, I said quietly. Look at me. She turned over, and even in the dim light from our alarm clock, I could see tears in her eyes. He's your son, David. In every way that matters, he's your son. Every way that matters. Not, he's your son. Every way that matters. I felt this cold dread settling in my stomach. What does that mean? It means you're the only father he's ever known. It means you're the one who raised him, who loves him, who— Lorelei. My voice was sharper than I intended. What does that mean? She was quiet for so long I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then in the smallest voice I'd ever heard from her, she said, I think maybe we should get that test done, just to put this to rest once and for all. The next morning, I called my doctor. 2 days later, we were at the clinic. Kieran was sullen and quiet, barely speaking to either of us. The whole drive there, Lorelei kept reaching for my hand, and I kept pulling away. The DNA test was simple. A cheek swab, 3 minutes, and then we had to wait 2 weeks for results. Those were the longest 2 weeks of my life. I found myself studying Kieran's face, looking for similarities I'd never questioned before. His dark hair like Lorelei's, his green eyes, also like Lorelei's, his build, his mannerisms, his smile. Had I been blind for 16 years? The call came on a Friday afternoon. I was at work sitting in my office when my phone rang. Dr. Martinez, our family physician. David, I have your results. I closed my office door and sat down. Just tell me. The test shows there's no biological relationship between you and Kieran. I'm sorry, the world stopped. Everything just stopped. David, are you there? Yeah, I managed. Yeah, I'm here. I know this is difficult news. If you need to talk to someone I can recommend, I hung up. I sat in my office for 3 hours, staring at the wall, trying to process what I'd just learned. Kieran wasn't my son. This boy I'd loved, raised, sacrificed for, wasn't mine, but the betrayal. The real betrayal was still coming. That night I confronted Lorelei. I told her about the test results, and she broke down crying, but they weren't tears of guilt or shame. They were tears of fear. I can explain, she kept saying. Please, David, let me explain. So I listened. And what she told me changed everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my family. It was before we got married, she said. You remember that fight we had when you said you needed space? I remembered. We'd been together for 2 years, and I'd started feeling like things were moving too fast. I'd asked for a break, 2 weeks, just 2 weeks to figure things out. I was hurt, she continued. I was angry. I went to that bar downtown and I met someone. It was just one night, David, one stupid, meaningless night. Who? My voice was barely a whisper. She looked at me with such pain in her eyes. Your brother, Marcus, my younger brother Marcus. It didn't mean anything, she rushed to explain. We were both drunk, both hurt. He was angry at you for some reason I can't even remember now. It was a mistake, a horrible, terrible mistake. The room was spinning, my wife, my brother. My son who wasn't my son. Does he know? I asked. Lorelei shook her head. No, I never told him. When you and I got back together and I found out I was pregnant, I hoped, I prayed it was yours. But you knew it might not be. I tried not to think about it. Kieran looked so much like me and you were so happy to be a father. I convinced myself it didn't matter. You are his father, David. You're the one who— Stop. I stood up. Just stop. I walked out of the house that night and drove to Marcus's apartment. I sat in my car outside his building for 2 hours, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to confront him. Part of me wanted to beat him senseless. But mostly I just wanted to understand how my entire life had been built on a lie. The next few days were a blur. Kieran was still being difficult, still throwing that DNA test in my face every chance he got. I knew it, he kept saying. I knew you weren't my real dad. But here's the thing about loyalty. Here's what I learned in those dark days after my world fell apart. Loyalty isn't about blood. It's not about DNA or genetics or who shares your features. Loyalty is about choice. It's about showing up every day even when it's hard, even when you're hurt, even when the person you're loyal to doesn't deserve it. I made a choice. I chose to show Kieran what real loyalty looks like. I didn't tell him about Marcus. I didn't tell him about that night 17 years ago that changed everything. Instead, I showed him what it means to be a father through my actions. When he got suspended from school for fighting, I was there. When he needed help with college applications, I was there. When he scored the winning goal in the regional championship, I was there cheering louder than anyone. And slowly, gradually, he started to understand. The test results didn't change how I felt about him. They didn't change the 16 years of love, support, and sacrifice. They didn't change the fact that I would always be his father, regardless of what some lab report said. It took months, but eventually Kieran came to me with tears in his eyes and apologized. Not just for the DNA test comment, but for everything. For doubting me, for pushing me away, for not understanding what I'd been trying to show him all along. As for Lorelei, that's a different story. Our marriage couldn't survive the weight of that secret. Too much had been broken, too much trust had been shattered. We divorced quietly, amicably, with Kieran's well-being as our only concern, and Marcus. I never confronted him, never told him the truth, because some secrets are too dangerous to reveal and some relationships are too precious to destroy over mistakes made in the past. But Kieran learned something valuable from all of this. He learned that loyalty isn't about biology. It's about choice. It's about commitment. It's about showing up when it matters most. And he learned that sometimes the people who aren't obligated to love you are the ones who love you the most. That's what I showed him. That's what loyalty really looks like. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let me know in the comments what loyalty means to you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that family is about more than just blood. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next